both presentations of Stefan and Gary, I think, are very refreshing because I am an economist, but these issues, money and finance, are of importance to everybody. So certainly they cannot be confined to economists, and their perspectives are very interesting, expression, as I say. Then I think Pascal did an excellent job in explaining how the capitalist system works. Of course, it doesn't mean, and he also noted that things cannot be changed. And in my remaining minutes, what I will do perhaps is to look a bit at how finance has become so big. Because, well, there is money and finance. Money is useful for transactions. The economists always distinguish these three functions of money: transactions, store of value, and also unit of account. These are the standard. But eventually, we can see already situations when money, at least the money that we carry in our pockets, will disappear. Very little use already for money. Now, finance is doesn't mean that money will disappear entirely because it is in the background, even if we cannot see it. Maybe it is not in our pockets. Now, finance is a different thing. It would be hard to imagine the economic capitalist system having reached the point that we know without finance. Finance is the way that brings together investors, entrepreneurs, connects the past, the present with the future. So it's really, finance is essential to the working of the modern capitalist system. Of course, it doesn't mean that it has to be implemented in the way that it is. In principle, we could imagine finance, the supplier of these funds, to be kind of utility. There is no particular reason why finance has to be controlled by private institutions. So the fact that it has been controlled by private institutions implied that these institutions, of course, they were into the business because they wanted to make money. The profit motive that is so important in productive activities became also important in the operation of the financial system. And in order to increase profits, which is a natural tendency of entrepreneurs in any sector of activity, there were how to do that. Well, one way is to expand finance, even if it is not entirely needed, to look for financial innovation. We know where financial innovation led us in 2008. And also ways of bypassing financial regulation. The fact that finance was conducted by private institutions, in principle, means that you need to regulate that sector. And there were some regulations that were established progressively. So how to bypass regulation? Well, one way, of course, is to collude with political power. And this has taken place massively everywhere. You can see that you look everywhere and you see executives of financial, or former executives of financial enterprises that are in government. Say, in the United States, would be any of the recent governments, not only the current administration, but in the past administration, you could see also prominent positions taken by executives of Goldman Sachs and others. So the fact is that the financial institutions became bloated. They have too much power. Just to give you some figures, in 1950, the financial institutions accounted, their business accounted for 2.8% of GDP. 1980, 4.9, and 2006, 8.3. So a very big part of the economy. I think it has gone down since then. But even so, it is very high for something that is really an utility, a means for the economy to operate. In terms of what can be done, of course there are mechanisms such as taxes and so on, but I would say that the most radical measure one could envision is to turn finance into something more than as a utility that is taken out of private hands. It sounds very radical, but we need to think of ways of how to go in that direction. It cannot be done from one day to the next, but how to move in that direction, I think that is the interesting point. Thank you.